right, this is DGP week 12. Make sure you spelled out 12. Also check for your name and your core number to be at the top of your paper. With dates, you can copy down this date. I'm looking specifically for commas here, capital letters here. Those are things that people are still making mistakes on. And then we have 8 corrections here. So we can just go through. You're going to start each sentence with a capital letter. This word is Monsignor Darcy. So we have a name. Both first, the title, Monsignor, and the name Darcy need to be capitalized. Amory is also a name. It needs to be capitalized. We also have a period at the end. Coming back up to capital letters, this particular author uses Stewart as an adjective. This will be a proper adjective to describe Palace, but does not capitalize Palace. Hudson is also capitalized. That's a river in New York. And then we have our comma here, because we have 2 independent clauses separated by a comma, and in this case a coordinating conjunction. Christmas is a specific holiday. It needs to be capitalized. Let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are all our corrections for the first part of this DGP for week 12. So we're moving on to the next day. This is, of course, labeled Wednesday, November 18th. I'm not so concerned, again, with the correct date as much as I am with these commas and spelling. People are always misspelling Wednesday. Here's a comma, so check those things. We have all of our parts of speech listed here. All we need to do is find them in our sentence. So we have the same sentence. Monsignor Darcy invited Amory up. We are looking, let's just start for proper nouns. These are nouns that are specific. There are 4 of them. We're going to use the capital N. Monsignor Darcy is a proper noun. This person invited this person, also a proper noun. This is a specific. Hudson is a specific river. It needs to be a capital N. Christmas is a specific holiday. And there we have 1, 2, 3, 4 proper nouns. I like to, at this point, go and work on our action verbs. So we have 2 action verbs. Invited is an action verb, and in this case, had is an action verb because it's showing ownership. So now we have both of our action verbs. I like to look at prepositional phrase because they help me find nouns. So prepositions, we have very common prepositions. The word on, to, for, with, and in, I think, are the 5 that I try to memorize or suggest that my students memorize. And here we have: to the Stewart Palace, on the Hudson, for a week, at Christmas, around the open fire. These are all prepositional phrases. Look at this. We have to, on, and for listed. To, on, and for. So just knowing those prepositions helps us to have 3 right there. So nouns, knowing that prepositional phrases, so here's my preposition, ends with nouns or pronouns might help us find those common nouns. There are 4 of them. So we have a palace. That's a noun. Hudson's already a proper noun. Week is a noun. Christmas is already a proper noun. Fire is a noun. So we have fire, 1, 2, 3. And we can look, they had enormous conversations. Conversations is a noun. If you replace this, they had enormous apples. Nobody would ever question that that is a noun. Oops. I don't want that up there. There we go. So those are the 4 nouns that we have. We've also labeled the 5 prepositions. Ooh, here's an easy one. Articles. These articles are the words a, an, or the. So you look up here and you find, ooh, the is an article. The is an article. A is an article. I'm coming back down here to check. There are 4 of them. I'm missing one. Oop, here's another one. Article. The word the. So now I have all my articles. One thing I'd like to talk about are proper adjectives. This is an adjective that is specific, and our Stuart describes a palace. It is a proper word. In this case, it's a name, so it would be your proper adjective. We do have some other adjectives. If I did this, what kind of conversations and what kind of fire do we have? Maybe that'll give you the clue. If it doesn't, let me go ahead and tell you that enormous is an adjective, and so is open. So there we have all of our adjectives. We have one adverb. It's kind of tricky simply because it's also sometimes a preposition. So there's your adverb, and we already looked at this being a coordinating conjunction. I told you that yesterday. So we've got that. You're left with the word they. They replaces Amory and Darcy. That's what pronouns do. They is a pronoun. So now you've completed Wednesdays. This is your parts of speech day. Moving on to Thursday. You don't forget, again, commas, capital letters. Those are things that people lose points on. So this is parts of the sentence. We did parts of speech. We'll come back and do the underlining last. We have two independent clauses. Let me see if I can get a highlighter out here and I can better show you. Monsignor Darcy this whole thing is one clause, and this one is a second. We have two independent clauses joined by a comma and a coordinating conjunction. So we have two subjects. That means one's going to be in the green and one's going to be in the yellow. And so, what's the subject of your first sentence? Well, Monsignor Darcy invited. This is the person doing the action verb. And they is your second one. They had enormous conversations. So now you have both your subjects, which should help lead you to your verb. Both of these verbs are transitive. That means we are looking for a direct object. They had. This verb is also transitive because they had something. This is, again, that ownership. So we have both of our verbs. Here we go to the direct object. Listen to how I can find this. Monsignor invited whom or what? Monsignor Darcy invited Amory or Armory, however you're saying this. This is your direct object. They had what? Conversations. Those are your direct objects. Now, in the previous, we're looking here for prepositional phrases that we have already found the prepositional phrases. To at the Stuart Palace, on the Hudson, for a week, at Christmas, around the open fire. You already listed those, and they are looking for a couple things. Number one, there are 4 adverb prepositional phrases, and there is 1 adjective prepositional phrase. But we can knock this object of the preposition out immediately because the last word in a prepositional phrase is always the object of the preposition. So there is all 5 of your objects of the preposition. Now we know that each one of these are prepositional phrases. We've indicated that with these parentheses. And we have one that is an adjective, meaning it's going to describe a noun. And then this one is an adverb prepositional phrase, and it's going to, these 4 are going to describe, in this case, all verbs. So, Monsignor Darcy invited Amory where? So here, to the Stuart Palace tells where he invited. So this is an adverb prepositional phrase. On the Hudson tells us more about the palace. And so this is the one adjective prepositional phrase. How long did Monsignor Darcy invite Amory? Oh, he did it for a week. When did he do it? Oh, he did it at Christmas. Those are all adverb prepositional phrases. And then we have one more here, around the open fire. That tells where they had those conversations. This is also an adverb prepositional phrase. Now this last one, the last slide, is your diagram. Again, there's your date. I cannot stress enough these commas. I'll have people miss them all year long. So this looks a lot like chicken scratch, but I've given you some key words in key places to help you try and put this together. Again, I'm going to get out my highlighter. I'm going to highlight in green, Monsignor Darcy invited Amory up for a week at Christmas. And then this is where that information goes. And then in yellow, I'm going to put they had enormous conversations around the open fire, and that is where this goes. Now, this bottom, they had enormous conversations around the fire, seems like it might be easier to start with. We'll just start with that one. It doesn't have as much of this chicken scratch that we have here. So, your subject, we already did that over in here. Let's find it. There it is. Oh, nope, not that page. Sorry. There it is. Monsignor Darcy. You have this on your paper. Use this so that you can become more familiar with this sentence. So, we're in the yellow. They is your subject. What did they do? This is your verb. They had. Remember, we already talked about direct objects. They had what? The word is conversations. And here I already gave you a clue. What kind of conversations? Enormous conversations. That word modifies conversations. Over here, we have preposition, and I've moved that down too much. Here it is, around the open fire. This is your object of the preposition. Your preposition is around. And what kind of fire is it? It's the open fire, and it's the fire. And so you simply put the fire, open fire. And now you've completed that entire sentence right there. You're finished with that. You've got your coordinating conjunction, and that is what ties these two sentences together. Now let's move up here to the top. Talked about Monsignor Darcy is your subject. And what did Monsignor Darcy do? He invited. And who did he invite? Well, I've kind of put some stuff there, but it's Amory. So we have our subject, our verb, and our direct object. Where did he invite him? He invited him up. That's your adverb. You also have some clues here. Look, you have the word palace. Coding. We have all these prepositional phrases. We have Hudson here. Let's look at this palace one. What kind of palace do we have? It's the Stuart Palace. So Stuart Palace, the Palace, and it's to the Stuart Palace. So this prepositional phrase is taken care of, and you have all this. I'm going to mark it out. Now, we have the word Hudson. Remember, we said Hudson told you more about where the palace was. So this is going to be on Hudson, the. So we've already taken care of that. I'm going to skip down to this one because, look, this one only has two right here. Look, we have a prepositional phrase with only two words. At Christmas. And then finally, you're left with for a week. Well, here's your object. What kind of week? A week, and your preposition goes here with for. This is probably one of the longest sentences you'll do. Now you've finished it, and I hope that this helps you understand it a little better.